عزا على صحب فقدناهم على صحب لهم جرح عميق ما ذكرناهم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Ba'd. Allah, today we will be covering the life of last of the four Imams in our series, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, who came in between Imam Malik and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. Allah. Timeline. Around the same time that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah was born, I think it was only a few weeks after Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he passed away. So they were actually very, very close together throughout this time. In terms of period, they were very, very close. They literally came one after the other. So inshallah, so one of the attributes of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he was dubbed a godly philosopher, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. And what did he mean by this? Imam Ahmad rahimahullah meant that by godly philosopher, he meant it as a compliment. He said that he meant it as something. He was saying that as a philosopher, he meant that he had deep knowledge in four main fields. The first one was language. So, which is also mentioned by him, that he used to live among the Arabs for 20 years, to an excellent understanding of Arabic and all the different ways of dialects and so on. Also of Arabic, he had a very good understanding of that. Disputation, he was someone who was very, very good at debating. Definitions and Islamic law, he was someone who was very skilled in both, and the latter was also because of his experience under Imam Malik rahimahullah. And it was also, in terms of what he meant about by godly, is that he was someone who followed the Sunnah. He would divide his night into three parts. The first part would be in study. Second part would be in salah, and the third would be in sleeping. Allah. And the even greater expression of praise for Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, Imam Ahmad said that he suggested him as a potential mujaddid. He was someone who would renew the faith at the beginning of every century, subhanallah. And impressed with Shafi'i's intellect, he was someone who was able to resolve difficulties and ambiguous issues very, very easily. And most significantly, in his Risala, he set forth, systematic principles for deriving legal rulings. And we'll talk about a Risala later on, but you can see here already, just from the few praises of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he was someone who was already quite great. And he was born as a very poor person. His mother, obviously, was an orphan again, like one of the several of the other Imams. He was born in Palestine, in Palestine. And as a child, he was very, very engaged in archery, so much. His local doctor said that, he's scared that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah is going to get, ill from how he spends outside in the sun doing archery, subhanallah. And was so intent on reaching his goals from such an early age. And, although his mother was very, very poor, his first teacher, was allowed him to take care of his class if he had to go out for something. And that's interesting because it shows that even from a very young age, he was someone who was very responsible for people. And we all see that responsibility also comes into play with him as a scholar. And at the age of 10, Shafi'i rahimahullah, at the age of 7, Shafi'i rahimahullah, he memorized the Quran by the age of 7. Al-Muwatta, Imam Malik, as we mentioned before, by the age of 10, subhanallah. See, he was such a young age, yet he excelled in how in his studies and so on. This provided him with a firm grounding in Islamic knowledge to build upon, which is the Quran and the Sunnah. He, on one hand, has the Quran, which he memorized, and he also has the Hadith, when the best collection at that time was Al-Muwatta Imam Malik. And there was an incident when he was very young, which is quite significant in his life. It was one of the main game changers in life. Is that he was accidentally summoned to Baghdad, as member of a group of Alawis who were conspiring against the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid. He was falsely accused of being part of that group. And in the court of Harun al-Rashid, these other Alawis were all executed. Imam Shafi'i watches it one by one. Then finally, when it comes to Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he goes, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm not a Alawi. I'm just a man from Banu Muttalib bin Abdul Manaf. in spite of that, I possess some small amount of knowledge and legal understanding. He said what he said most crucially was that this judge, he knows about me. He will be able to testify for my, for good character and my knowledge. Uh, judge was Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. And Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani then testified that yes, this guy is free of any accusation of falsely brought. He's not meant to be here. And Harun Rashid then said that instead of sending him back to, to where he was, he said that Imam al-Shafi'i should study under Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. Hassan al-Shaybani was also a student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And because of that, he studied under, for about 3 years under Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Shaybani. He never, unfortunately, met Abu Yusuf, who was another senior student of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, because he already passed away. After the 3 years, Shafi'i returned back to Arabia, back to Mecca. And when Imam Malik rahimahullah passed away, who Shafi'i also studied under, Shafi'i rahimahullah became the most prominent qadi in the region. He remained there for another 9 years, and then he went to Baghdad, and then rejoined Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. And during his time in Mecca, he had a teacher named Waqi', and as he was learning, his deen, found that he started to forget knowledge, and he wasn't sure for that reason. And then he complained to his teacher, teacher Al-Waqi'. He said that, I can't memorize anymore. He said, Al-Waqi' says, have you done? There must be something you've done, stop you from learning. He thinks about it, and he remembers that he saw something haram. He saw, a leg of a woman in some incident on the street or something. And, he says, this is what. Then Waqi' says, go and make tawbah first, make sincere tawbah, and then come back, and then you can start learning knowledge. And from this incident, Imam Shafi'i also wrote the famous lines of poetry, which a lot of people will know. Shakawtu ila Waqi'i su'u hifdhi. He said that, I complained to Waqi' for an issue in memorization. Rasalani an darb al-ma'asi. He said that, and Waqi' sent me away, told me to leave what is ill. وأخبرني بأن العلم النور ونور الله لا يخلط عاص. So he basically said that his Waqi', his teacher, said that the knowledge is a light, and person cannot get that light if they're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so we should also remember ourselves. If we strive for knowledge, we also got to stop ourselves from sinning in the process. We have to implement what we learn. We can't just say, I'm going to learn all this knowledge, but I'm going to sin. Knowledge and memorization has to be done when you're not sinning, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easier for a person who's not sinning to learn and to strive in his path. And that's something we also need to strive towards, even when doing when we're learning different things such as Quran or fiqh or tafsir and so on. Always remember, make sure you keep yourself away from sins as much as you can. So a lot of people, they said about Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, after his learning law under Imam Malik rahimahullah, one scholar, Yunus ibn Abi Ala, Abdul Ala, that if all the people of that nation were gathered together, their minds would not match Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. That scholar also said that and have never met as anyone as sensible as Shafi'i rahimahullah. I once debated an issue with him, after which we went our separate ways. And then later on, after this debate, he comes up to the same person, narrator. He says that, "Oh, Abu Musa, is it best that we remain brothers, even though there's a matter we can't disagree on?" And Dhahabi, he comments upon this statement. Imam Dhahabi rahimahullah, he comments on this statement. He says that this demonstrates, strength of mind that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah had, as well as his self-understanding. He understood that colleagues will always have the differences. And this is something that is also very, very impressive about Imam Shafi'i. Something that's also impressed me, that he was someone who always fully appreciated how much people differ. That he was someone who was also knew a lot about how different people act. He would treat people at their level. He knew that people would never be able to agree on everything. Allah, this is something we also need to try on. We can't just kick someone away because we disagree with them one issue. If we disagree on majority of on minor issues, if we agree on a major issue, then we should agree with them. SubhanAllah, we should work with them for better purpose. Otherwise, we're just going to be divided as ummah. Subhanallah. And another issue as well is that it's also someone who was very, very humble. And in terms, he subhanallah, he was someone who used to really take knowledge from his own students, a bit like Imam Malik rahimahullah. He would take knowledge from his own students. He would he would take knowledge from Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah. They would discuss different issues. And that's also something we should also think, that it's not just the teacher is not the expert. Also, they should also take knowledge from people who are under them. And we see this issue a lot today. People are like, the teachers are arrogant and they think any student have no knowledge. They're children, but no. Teachers and students, both people who have different levels of knowledge. Sometimes there might be levels of knowledge that a student has, a teacher doesn't know, and they accept it. SubhanAllah, that's an important thing, is to accept it. If it's good, you accept it. Someone also who has pursued knowledge, like he said when he was asked how do you pursue knowledge, he said, the way a mother goes looking for a lost child when she has no other, that's how you have to look for knowledge. Allah. He said that and also asked, why are you so committed to knowledge? How are you so committed to knowledge? He said, as committed as a greedy person is to wealth. SubhanAllah. And we see, the way people are so, attracted to wealth. They're so attracted to, cars and, phone, technology, all that kind of thing, clothes, fashion, makeup, all of that. SubhanAllah, these people, he was saying, you should be in the same way you love this world, you should love the ilm, and you should love Allah. SubhanAllah. The same way you love this dunya, because that ilm you have, that's going to benefit you a lot more than some temporary, thing that will last a few years and then go away. SubhanAllah. And it's also very interesting is his stance on debating. He was someone who used to, someone who did not want to, when it came to debating, he was someone who refused to, look down on his opponents. He was someone who saw them as just people, who are, saw these people as just, they're just, what do you call it? Well, he said in one of his quotes that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said that I never debated anyone with the intention to triumph over them, but only on account of what I saw to be the truth. It doesn't see a lot of people today. They'll see a debate. They'll be like, "Oh, this is my, this is my chance to look good. This is my chance to look big. This is my chance to practice my knowledge." No, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he would say, no, the intention of debating is not to look good in the face of the opponent or bash your opponent. The important issue is you want to teach your opponent what is right. That's the point. I have never hoped. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said that I never hope when debating with someone that they make a mistake. He also said another incident that Imam Shafi'i about debating. He says that the end goal is to make the truth come out of the other person's mouth, not for them to be humiliated. Allah, you want them to be guided. And the Shafi'i rahimahullah, he also said that I would like it if people learn knowledge, my books, without attributing it to me. Just taking our knowledge. It's not mine. It's free. It's people's knowledge. Allah. He's someone who was quite unique in understanding, human nature and human weaknesses. As I was saying, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he wasn't someone who always used to debate. A lot of people will say, let's go speak as scholars, let's debate these, Christians and so on. He was someone who didn't like that. He was someone who strove for the deen. He was someone who strove for Islam. He was someone, who said that he hoped by Allah. He said, by Allah, I hope that the truth, that the person I'm debating with is someone that the truth comes out of his mouth rather than mine. And then there was another incident as well, where he also said that he never insisted that he was always right. He was absolutely correct, because that's something very arrogant to say. You're not absolutely correct. He said that he regards my opinion to be correct, while entertaining the possibility I'm wrong. I regard the other person's opinion to be mistaken, while entertaining the possibility they are right. Allah. And a lot of people will quote these words. Very few people are able to put in practice. SubhanAllah. This is the thing, is a lot of people say, well, let's follow the Salaf, let's do this, let's follow the Salaf. They won't actually implement these things of the Salaf. SubhanAllah. And there was, his integrity as well. He was someone who had very, very, very high standards and very high, manners. And this was also from his own education with Al-Waqi' and others. He has very, very, high standards with everything. And even son, he said he never once heard his father raise his voice in a debate, subhanallah, because he knew, because Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said that shouting is the first sign that someone is losing their arguments, subhanallah. And another incident also, so when one of Imam Shafi'i's students, he narrated that he once heard me say, so and so in this narration is a kadhib, he's a liar. And Imam Shafi'i rebukes his own student. He says that, Abi Ibrahim, camp your choice of words, because think of a better way to say it. Don't say, so and so is a liar. Don't say he's a kadhib. Just say his hadith narrations are not worthwhile. You're not meant to attack his integrity. Just meant to attack this. You're only meant to, tell people that this hadith is the chains are weak. You're not meant to say he's a kadhib, liar, and so on. Allah. And he once heard. Was once walking in the marketplace with a few of his students. He hears this man, deriding and ridiculing the scholars. Shafi'i rahimahullah, he turns to his student and says, safeguard your ear from hearing indecent language as much as you safeguard your tongue from uttering it. Because the one who listens is the partner of the one who speaks. Fool looks at the worst thing on this plate and he wishes to see it on your place as well, subhanallah. You reject the speech of a fool, you're blessed in rejecting it as much as fools rejected for cursing it. Another incident as well is where Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, he was in a debate, and he was times he wouldn't, when someone gave him, maybe like a questionable argument, wouldn't insult them, he'd start saying, oh, you're a fool, you're an idiot. All he used to say is that my silence is not because you have defeated me, just simply is that it does not befit the lion answer to the dogs. It does not befit the lion to answer the hyenas. That's all it is. SubhanAllah, he didn't say anything else. He's silent because silence is better for a Muslim. Control of the tongue is better for a Muslim, SubhanAllah. And further on, he was also someone who was very, very generous. Or someone, he became bankrupt 3 times in his life, even though he has so much income, because he spent so much on his students. Like, Imam Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, he spent a lot on his students. He also spent a lot on Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah. Imam Shafi'i, he spent a lot on his students. Because of that, he's become bankrupt. He used to say, whoever wishes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of their needs, they should think of others in the best possible light, subhanAllah. And, now, a lot of people, they'll be very, very, they're very, very overly serious. There's no joking, no such thing. No, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah used to say it's foolish to be serious and it's foolish to be grave. If you're out with your friends and family, you should be light-hearted and you should be pleasant. He used to tell humorous things to his students. He used to tell, funny stories, because he knows that there's nothing wrong with, having a laugh. This is important, he understood human nature well, and he knew that people are not just gonna, learn, without any kind of humor. Humor is needed. That's something a lot of people forget, that they say that make ilm boring. They make ilm, it's just something that's flat. You just learn it. Allah, it's something that also has to involve humor, and that's what Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah used to do. And what's also interesting is that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he had two schools in his school of thought. And the first one was one he developed while he was in Iraq with Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. The second school was known as the Misri, the Egyptian school of thought, and there he changed his approach in many things compared to his old school, and that's because he never stopped revising his opinions. He was ready, to change opinion if there was something new that came up from the Sunnah. Quran. He was always someone who was ready, to accept the truth when it came to him, like Imam Malik rahimahullah. And society, he also had to change because, Egypt was different compared to Iraq. They were different. So he changed the rulings based upon the society he was within. And only on experience, it's the new experience and these ideas was also older and wiser than his old Iraqi. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah also accepted the fact that, this new school of thought, this new madhab that Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah had developed in Egypt, he said that this new school of thought Imam Shafi'i has developed, that's the better thought. You should follow that, because he didn't probably revise the books he wrote while in Iraq. When in Egypt, he revised everything carefully. SubhanAllah. He builds on experience. He continues to develop himself even at such an old age. And this is something we should also be doing. We should always be developing Islam. We should always be developing the deen. It's something important. We should also, think about. We know when it's perfect already. We have never learned anything. Ilm is widespread. We have only just touched. We have our ilm is one drop in the ocean. Allah's ilm is widespread. It's an ocean. Allah. So one of the greatest works of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah was known as the Risala. Risala was is considered to this day, it was a set of the legal theories of Islamic law, and what he put three, I think. How many? There was about two basic principles under this. The first one was that every legal question has an answer for it in the Quran and the Sunnah. That's the first principle. Second principle is that every legal ruling has to be established with evidence. No one can establish, a legal ruling without evidence. It has to be substantiated with the Quran or Sunnah, with the ijma' from the Qadi or even a Naji. So it has to have evidence, something backing it. Because anyone can just make a rule and just say this is Islam. Allah. And he was also very highly praised by his peers. He was highly praised, by Yahya ibn Ma'in. He was praised by Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. He was also praised by Sufyan ibn Uyayna as well. And another scholar also said that I saw how gentle and unassuming a Shafi'i was. Again, he was very, very understanding of human nature. He never asked him anyone. He never treated anyone in a way that he just assumed their things. He understood them and he listened to them, and then he answered them at their level. And that's how we should be, inshallah. We should try and understand people. Then they relate to us and we relate to them, and then we can solve problems. We should really try and strive to be people like Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. And after all these years of traveling and teaching and developing madhahib, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he spends his final days in Egypt, and he passes away in the year 204 after Hijrah while in his 50s. Though he didn't live a very, very long life, it was a full one. The achievement far surpassed his time on earth. In the time that he had, he did so much more than a person would have done in much longer time. His knowledge has endured throughout the century, not only for the Shafi'i school of law, but for all Muslims, and his work crosses boundaries. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who respect the scholars and love them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who understand people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who don't debate just for the sake of debating. They debate to bring the truth from the other person's mouth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who strive for the deen in every way we can. We try and exceed expectations when it comes to the deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us honest people, who won't take our own opinions, but rather focus on what is correct by the Quran and Sunnah. Sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Allahumma ja'alna min الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. اللهم اجعلنا ممن أطاع الله ورسوله وأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.